So during NIO Day, NIO's president, Chin Lee-hong, off stage said some pretty important stuff. He said that the ET9 that they're about to launch, there's so much selling points. There's so many selling points that they only talked about like maybe 1/3 of it. All right. And there's still like 2/3 of it left and lots of other stuff to talk about, just like the interior of the car, etc. And he said that if they put everything into NIO Day, it would take too long and the audience would get very, very bored. So there's still so much to talk about. He also said that the interior cost of parts for the ET9 is only about 1/10 of the cost. So just for the interior, the seats, etc. So that's actually pretty good. And he talked about, very importantly, he said that they've already done the R&D for the interior, for the seats and everything like that. They can use that on their sub-brand, Alps. Alps sub-brand, also probably named Envo. All right, I have a video about the naming. It's over here if you guys want to watch it. And he said that he can price the MPV 150,000 RMB below the competitor. And this competitor, the name was beeped out, but it's Li Auto, of course. Li Auto's Mega. They can price it at 150,000 RMB cheaper than them and still make a profit and still have good margins. However, he said that the MPV car is about 2.5 to 3 years out, and they've just recently planned this whole entire thing. So NIO is definitely going to be quite late to the MPV race. But what he said also reveals some very interesting things, and that's the fact that a lot of the R&D money that they're spending now is for long-term margins. And the NIO CEO also said that on stage a couple months ago. He said the R&D they put in now is for long-term margins. So this is actually very evident for that. And it's becoming more and more clear that NIO is going to have great margins in the future. And if NIO just shuts down R&D, they would be profitable. But of course, they won't do that. They're reinvesting everything into themselves to get their vehicles and their technology way more ahead than the competitors. And very importantly, making everything themselves. All right. Developing things themselves, that puts the cost down, improves margin, and also makes it better than the competitors. Now, it's much more apparently clear that NIO's path to profitability involves optimizing through R&D, spending money to make things the best, but also the cheapest way to make it, improving margins, and then also getting profitable through infrastructure. I know you guys are very excited with the prospect of battery swap, standardization, all that great news. It's all happening very soon. Partnerships, there's some more partnerships that are coming very soon. He did hint about some of them. I'll talk about that in a later video. But it's also apparently clear why NIO has so many vehicle models. They do the R&D for something and then they can place that on multiple vehicle models. They don't have to do the R&D again. All right. So it's another way of saying it is a different shell, but the same car. All right. It's because NIO's, they're essentially the same car, maybe a little bit different in wheelbase, a little bit different in motors, the interior plushness, maybe the outside design, but most of the other stuff, it's basically the same. So NIO doesn't have to spend more R&D money making a second car. Some of you guys talked about potentially licensing out NIO's own chip to other auto manufacturers like Qualcomm maybe. But I think for NIO, their goal is to have these chips in their own cars, make their own cars the most competitive, sort of like what Apple does. You won't see Apple put their own chips in someone else's product. They're going to put it in their own product, make it the most, optimize everything, be able to build it cheaply, but make it also one of the best, if not the best, and just earn a ton of money from it. This is where NIO is heading as well. All right, but it all takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money to get there. And I'm pretty confident that NIO will get there. All right, we will get to profitability, but it's going to take a while. And I think the best part of NIO having so much R&D and their R&D strength being so good is what this other point that the president said. He said that there's nothing that the competitors can do that we can't. Anything that they did, we can do it, but even better, even more cheaper. That's a big testament to NIO's R&D capabilities. I'll just leave it at that. Absolutely crazy, man. So whilst NIO is still quite undervalued in terms of market cap, in the auto industry here in China, in terms of tech, NIO is number one. All right, NIO is number one. Their R&D capabilities just insane, just crazy. And it's not like they're going to have a separate R&D division for the sub-brand. It's all going to be under NIO's main brand. What I mean by that is NIO's autonomous driving team is responsible for NIO's brand, but also for the sub-brand as well. And they only have to do R&D once. So it's not like they got to do R&D twice or anything like that. Their seating and comfort team, they only have one of those. All right. They don't have to have multiple teams doing the same thing. It's basically just one team doing one thing for multiple cars, and they share the research amongst those cars. Now, I'm a bit bummed down by the fact that we're not going to see an MPV anytime soon, and it's still quite a few years out. Now, another thing that the CEO said recently was addressing the fact that some people were disappointed with the design of the ET9. Oh yeah, some of you guys were upset with the design of the ET9. Some diehard NIO fans were also upset with the design of the ET9. And the CEO had to address this on stage, and he said that a design should be progressive and not revolutionary. It should be what is familiar and a step beyond that, and not a completely new design. And he said, if you reference like BMW and Mercedes, do they ever do like revolutionary new designs? No, it's always familiar. Their DNA is always there. For example, for BMW, the double kidney grills, it's always present in all their vehicle models. And for NIO themselves, it's also the same statement, the same DNA. We got to keep the DNA consistent. And I think personally the design looks quite nice. And some people were confused, like, why is this an ET9? Shouldn't it be like an EC9 or something? Yeah. And also, the purpose of this car isn't as a super flashy car. It's a sort of like a Maybach alternative, all right? A super comfortable car. Now, a lot of NIO owners did agree that this car was more to flex, more to show off NIO's muscles and capabilities, and to let everybody know who's the boss, and to basically show off the tech that is going to be coming in future NIOs and how revolutionary everything is going to be. So even though some people did not like the design of the car, people agree that the features of this car are just absolutely fantastic, and most of them cannot wait for some of these features to trickle down onto perhaps some of the cheaper vehicle models like the ET5 or maybe the ES6, and that would be a game changer.